maybe we addressing the fan fiction writers right here. Get those guys involved as well. Come on, get out of the shadows. Show yourself.
Hermitcraft is a Minecraft survival multiplayer server that has been running since 2012. The members, also known as Hermits, are content creators who make content largely on YouTube, but stream on platforms such as Twitch as well. These creators have anywhere from hundreds of thousands of subscribers to almost 10 million. As time has gone on, the Hermitcraft fandom has exploded. A community has formed and thrived, and with that, we have seen an expansion in fan content. This includes everything from fan art to cosplays and to, you guessed it, fanfiction. Today, I will be taking on the challenge of analyzing all Hermitcraft fanfiction. Specifically, we will be looking at the popular fanfiction site, Archive of Our Own, often called AO3. Together, we will go on a journey where we will analyze the tags, word counts, and ships popular in the fandom, as well as some popular tropes. We will discuss boundaries, the history of fanfiction, and more. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I make lots of Hermitcraft and life series content, from scripted videos like this to fun edits of Minecraft events. Subscribing is the easiest way to support me if you like this kind of content and want to see more of it. This video has been over a year in the making and is truly a love letter to a fandom I've been so involved in for years. This video is what I would consider Hermit Safe. I will not be revealing anything that is a secret or is considered a major breach of trust from the fandom to share with content creators. If you're a hermit, I encourage you to watch with an open mind and learn a little bit more about this dark side of the fandom. If you're not a hermit, take a seat and perhaps you will learn something you didn't know before about this fascinating sphere of the internet. With that out of the way, let's jump into discussing all things Hermitcraft fanfiction. The content creators who are in Hermitcraft are real people, and as real people who have been on the internet for a long time, they are well aware of the content their fandom produces. As real people, they are allowed and should set boundaries for themselves. When content creators are discussing boundaries regarding fanfiction, I see two main subjects touched upon. Subject 1, fanfiction knowledge. Often content creators will make a blanket statement that they don't care about what fanfiction is created, they just don't want to see it. You will often see this boundary be put in place by fanfiction authors as well, with requests in the summaries of fics saying something along the lines of, please don't send this to the creators. Subject 2, shipping. Now this is a contentious topic, but also one of the most popular fandom activities at large. This is when fans root for two characters to get together romantically in a relationship. In the context of Hermitcraft, shipping is not wishing for the real people to engage in a relationship. I'd say like 99% of the time. This behavior in particular of shipping real people is disapproved of by fandom communities for fandoms involving real people. And since these are real people, many of them have spouses, significant others, even children outside of the content creation space. Fans will often ask these content creators their opinions on fanfiction, and if someone is unfamiliar with the fan space, they may make the assumption that all fanfiction is shipping their real life self. With that in mind, I was able to find a 2021 source of Hermit's public statements regarding shipping, which will be linked in the description along with all other sources. Out of respect for the contention in the fandom regarding shipping, I do want to address each public statement. I do, however, also want to acknowledge that many of these statements were one-off mentions, often without proper context on the complexities of fanfiction, and not every fanfic author will be able to or even think to find these clips. It also is not the responsibility of the fanfic author to do so, which we will get into soon. Additionally, when this topic is discussed within the fandom, people will often use the word boundary. The public statements we are discussing are not truly boundaries, but requests by the hermits for their community to listen to. Boundaries are not something you impose on others, but rather a rule you set for yourself that dictates how you want to be treated. Here's an example. I will play the role of a popular YouTuber who has recently had a lot of questions about fanfiction. In a live stream, I address a question. Hey Molkoid, have you heard about that fanfic, insert fanfic name here? To which I respond, hey, thanks for asking. I have heard about this on Tumblr and some people have been sending it to me, which I find a little weird. I don't like being shipped with my friends, and unfortunately, if you send me a fanfic about myself, I'll just have to block you. The internet is free for all though, so like go wild, just like try to be respectful about me and my friends and don't send it to us. In this example, the boundary set from the creator would be that if you send them a fanfic that contains content they don't like, they will block you. Their request to their audience is that they not be shipped with other creators in fanfiction. These are two separate and important things. With that in mind, let's jump into the statements we do have from hermits. The document I have was created by Tumblr user actualhermitcraftboundaries.tumblr.com, who unfortunately has deleted their blog. The document is still publicly available though, so I will link in the sources down below. I also found another blog dedicated to recording hermit boundaries, aptly called Hermit Boundaries on Tumblr. I didn't use a ton from this blog, but I will also list in the sources. Remember that some of these are specific statements about the hermit's individual opinion on shipping, while some are more vague references to fanfiction, meaning that the audience sometimes need to extrapolate the meaning or what's said in between words. We should also keep in mind that the context to hermits talking about fanfiction or shipping is often missing in these posts, and the space it's posted or asked in could easily affect their response. I personally don't think asking questions about shipping in a Twitch stream is very appropriate for a hermit, since their audience can be young and the hermit doesn't necessarily want to make everyone aware of it. I also think privately DMing hermits about their opinion is also weird. An ideal statement would be made by a hermit without prompting as just kind of a blanket boundary, but we don't really see that happen often. We will take this hermit by hermit in no particular order. B-dubs. B-dubs has somewhat addressed shipping. He often makes shipping references about himself and Etho.
Hey B-dubs, where's your boyfriend?
Etho is, let's see. Wait, that's what you meant? Okay.
Since learning about dark hermit Twitter, he has learned what shipping is and has attempted to educate his fellow hermits. I would not say he has made his opinion very clear, just that he knows what it is.
What? If you guys are going to do the shipping stuff with me and Etho, then and think he's not going to know about it at some point, you're crazy. And half of that stuff he wouldn't be down for anyway. $1 million idea. B-dubs reads fan fiction about Etho to Etho and record his reaction. I don't think his sweet Canadian heart could take it. No, it would never happen. It would never happen. I would the idea of me reading it is very, it's likely. Anything for 1 billion views, I'd even act out the scenes if it was a guaranteed billion. They take our personas, and whether it's through artwork or story, they put us in a relationship. And it does not mean romantic. It does that is often the case, but is not a requirement.
Not a requirement.
Yes. So that is shipping.
Here is a clip from content creator DocM77 regarding shipping.
People shipping hermits and that hermits might be potentially offended by it. From what I can tell, that never really was an issue. I don't know. For example, whenever I say something nice about false symmetry or so, people make shipping comments and stuff. It's like I never heard any hermit complaining about that. I think if people have an issue with it, is maybe because it's objectification, right? So automatically, if there's a male and female involved, people immediately say, okay, it can only be romance or so. Maybe that would offend certain people also, but technically, I honestly, never heard a hermit saying, oh my god, they're shipping us again. Oh lord, Doc's statement here outlines that hermits in private have not really had issues with shipping from his perspective. He has also publicly said on his Twitter he doesn't care if you ship him. He has also previously said he would never read fan fiction. Doc has also made vocal shipping references in regard to himself and other hermit Rendog. Gemini Tay has responded to a private DM asking about boundaries. Gem's statement here can be interpreted as not involving her in shipping at all, or just not to ship her or her friends in a real life context as they are already in relationships. Gem has elaborated on this more recently in a Tumblr post, which I will read here. The question asks, Gem, would you be okay with shipping if it's 100% acknowledged that it's only characters or not at all? To which Jim replied, I would generally say I'm okay with my character being shipped in fan spaces. She goes on to say my boundaries would be never IRL, never with people whose boundaries are no shipping, no NSFW content, and no shipping with viewers. Their opinion on shipping has loosened if it's a fandom space and Gem herself or her young fans are not shown it. Gem is personally very active in the fandom space and seemingly the internet sphere in general. She's clearly aware of shipping in fanfiction, however, her opinions regarding herself as the center of that subject may be different than her opinions on fanfiction in general.
Jevin has not personally made a statement regarding shipping. He has replied to shipping fan art of other Hermitcraft members. Impulse addressed shipping in a private Discord interview. Unfortunately, the question is asked very vaguely, and Impulse gives an equally vague answer. The question is simple with just shippings, and Impulse says, yeah, probably best to avoid that. It's not really possible to determine if Impulse meant he's uncomfortable with shipping as a whole, or if he didn't want to answer the question in the interview. It was also revealed that the Discord member who asked this question had a bias against LGBT people, which may have influenced the way in which the question was asked. I found an old video where Impulse gets a chat about fanfiction, and he encouraged people at the time to send him fanfic on Twitter. I don't think this is his current viewpoint, but interesting to see the difference here.
Want to see your fanfic as in fiction, or did you mean to put pic? Either way, the answer is yes. Twitter. Twitter is the best way to send me that kind of stuff. Just Impulse us to me on Twitter. Send it to me on Twitter. Tweet it to me. I'd love to see it. I always love to see that.
Now, as of 2025, when this video is being published, Iscal85 is no longer a member of Hermitcraft, along with former Hermit Stress Monster. While the reasons he decided to leave Hermitcraft are very justified, he was still a hermit for a long time, and thus was written into the script when I started it in 2023. This video is not about specific members of Hermitcraft, although I'm sure some of you in the comments would love an hour-long video entirely on the optics of hot guy and cute guy as portrayed by the fandom. Regardless, Iscal will only be featured as needed. With that out of the way, Iscal has never made a real public statement regarding shipping. However, he has shared positive replies to ship art of himself and Stress. Joe Hills has not made a statement on shipping. However, they have made jokes before about being shipped with Zombie Cleo. Joe Hills also writes fanfiction about hermits, which is a whole can of worms in of itself.
But anyway, so that's how you write neoclassical fanfiction in the American style by Joe Hills.
Mumbo has not made any statements on shipping. However, he has referenced his ship name with Grian before of Grumbo. This name is a common mashup of the two names and has been used in a similar fashion for Grian and Mumbo's canonical robot child, so this should not be interpreted as an official statement or endorsement of his opinions on shipping. Pearlescent Moon has addressed shipping multiple times.
No, Shao, no. please don't ship Grian and I. I'm going to say this much. Please don't ship Grian and I, guys. it's not appropriate.
Pearl expanded on this in a later clip, which is now unfortunately deleted. The Boundaries document did make a summary of it, so I will read what they wrote for you here. Upon reading that people are shipping her and Impulse, Pearl asks people to think about these things more and remarks that at any time she does collab with a male content creator, people ship them and it can make things awkward, especially when people assume she is Grian's wife, as he is married and she's just a friend. She remarks that she is straight, which may be why she hasn't seen any shipping of her and Gemini Tay. She says she would appreciate if people do not ship her with anybody. Pearl defines shipping as basically saying that two people should be together. There are some people who just do it for like fanfic, they don't do it as a serious thing, but some people do it as like a serious thing and it's a little bit awkward. In this, Pearl is specifically mentioning how people assume she's Grian's wife when they're just friends, which is weird. Pearl also specifically states that she would appreciate if she was not shipped with anybody. Based on this, Pearl would prefer if people didn't comment on her real-life relationships with other YouTubers, which is something women unfortunately have to ask for on the internet. Rendog has not made an official statement on shipping, but has also made shipping references between himself and Doc. Wells Knight has replied to a tweet regarding shipping, saying he hasn't seen any ship content, and if he did, he would just ignore it. King. Azuma has made a public reply to a tweet regarding shipping. This statement is pretty clear that Azuma would rather not be bothered with questions regarding shipping, but would allow it as long as it isn't being thrust upon him. Honestly, Azuma has kind of flip-flopped back and forth on the subject of fanfiction and shipping. He's made comments that seem both positive and negative, but ultimately he always seems open to learning more.
Azuma, what are your boundaries regarding fan fictions? Oh, interesting. Very interesting question. So I don't mind someone doing like a fan fiction. Like I think it's cool that you care enough and you got passion and you want to write a story. I've definitely seen some where I'm like, I don't like this. Like I don't like seeing my Azuma portrayed this way. But like, it's up to you really. It's your imagination too, right? Like, I get that fan fiction is like stuff other people create. So some of this, I think it's called shipping, that I've seen is not really my thing. And also, like, a lot of people I feel like interpret Asuma very different from how I do, but it makes sense. I'm like a derpy, you know, Minecraft weirdo. Yeah, my Asuma is obviously like Doom Guy, goes around shooting up aliens. What do you think about fan fictions about you? Are you fine with them? I don't know. They're not really my thing. There's different types of fan fictions. Like, I'm not a fan of shipping at all. But like, you do you. You know, it's not really my thing, but some of you like it, so you know. Have you ever read Hermitcraft Fanfictions? Yeah, I've read some that I didn't really enjoy. Because they were really bizarre. And I don't know if there's any that aren't bizarre, but the ones that I were exposed to were pretty on the bizarre spectrum, and I was just like, this isn't for me. Some of you seem a little baffled by my response. I mean, it's the internet, right? Like, you can find anything on the internet, and my exposure to Hermitcraft Fanfiction was, I guess, definitely not definitely not to my liking.
Smallsbeans, also known as Joel, has not made any official statements about fanfiction. However, he has acted out fanfiction before with his wife, Lizzie, LD Shadow Lady. Not sure if this means he approves or not. Joel, if you want fanfiction recs, you just let me know. Finally, Cleo has addressed shipping a couple different times and has also written fanfiction with Joe.
Don't force your fanfictions on Cleo. You know what? Me and Joe actually don't care about the shipping. It's just a case of just don't take it seriously. If you want to like write a fanfic or, you know, do a bit of art, so long as we don't see it, we don't care. We don't want to see. It's fine.
Cleo received a Tumblr ask about fanfiction, which I will read for you here. The question asks how Cleo feels about shipping. Cleo responds that her response only covers what she says, not all hermits. And that being said, she says, I don't give a rat's arse. If people want to write about me in a romantic relationship with someone else, I genuinely do not care, as long as it is appropriately tagged and labeled. She also denotes that no one has written about a hermit in a way that is remotely accurate to my experience with them, and at that point, you're not really writing about them. It's just an AU. I like Cleo's endnote here that says, being kind is more important than being right in this situation, as right doesn't always exist here. This statement most accurately represents how shipping fanfic in the Hermitcraft community works and really hits the important points. There is no right answer to whether or not these content creators should be shipped together, and the fact of the matter is that it happens, and it will continue to happen in a fandom space. It is the responsibility of fans to not thrust this information in content creators' face when they do not want it, and it is the responsibility of the content creator to not go searching for works they might not want to see. Cleo is more interested in fans having a good time than having arguments over the morality of shipping. Their request is that as long as fanfiction regarding them is properly tagged, there shouldn't be any problems. We have no statements from the following hermits: Cupfan, Etho, False, Scar, Grian, Hypno, Corrales, Stress, Tango, Beef, XB, Skiz, or Zedaf. Something you'll notice with these statements is that the hermits that have addressed shipping, boundaries, and fandom space most thoroughly are predominantly female creators. While misogyny in fandom in general and the Hermitcraft space is specifically its own separate video, it is important to keep this in mind. Historically, it appears as though the female creators are disproportionately exposed to content they are not interested in seeing from fans, and have to take on the extra responsibility of addressing these concerns with their often young audience. I want to be very clear that I do not think hermits are required by any means to address fanfiction or interact in any way with the fandom space. The trouble is that since the dawn of the pandemic and the increased amount of young people in the fandom space that is not always safe for work, there has been an exponential growth in fans going out of their way to try and find out if the real people fanfiction is being written about give their consent. And while consent is of course important, fanfiction is not something that requires consent. If I wanted to write fanfiction about my manager having a complicated enemies to lovers 200k slow burn romance with the head of my company, I could technically do that. I could even publish that content online. The problem lies more in the sharing of that content. If I were to send that content to said manager and ask for their thoughts on my actions and perhaps a critique on my prose, I would fastly find myself in an HR meeting and the key to my office being taken away from me as I'm sent home forever. This is the internet, and as Bo Burnham said, it's anything and everything all of the time. The idea of policing each other, and especially policing a creative endeavor, is only a way to suppress ourselves more. In a 2014 Tumblr post, user Shine Like Thunder explores the idea of, yes, you are allowed. While this post focuses largely on the policing of internal fantasy tropes and the concept of staying realistic, I think it also plays at a larger problem of policing if a work can happen in the first place. Yes, you are allowed to write fanfiction. You are allowed to write fanfiction that has hermits doing explicit things, and you are allowed to share that. It is our responsibility as fans and as people who are engaging in fandom, and specifically fanfiction, to enforce our own boundaries. Determine what you're comfortable reading and viewing and stick to that. Now, with all that out of the way, let me introduce you properly to the site I've used daily since the early 2010s. Archive of Our Own, or AO3, is a self-described, non-commercial and non-profit central hosting site for transformative fan works such as fanfiction, and in the future, other transformative works such as fan art, fan videos, and podfic. Launched in 2009, the site hosts over 12 million fan works in over 61,000 fandoms. Since AO3 is a nonprofit, the organization of transformative works is funded via donations, which have totaled over $500,000 each year since 2021. And for good reason, too. The archive continues to promote a space where fandoms can express themselves freely and create content that anyone can enjoy for free. AO3 has a comprehensive terms of service page and user agreement. This agreement spells out that content-wise, you are entering this site at your own risk. You are meant to learn how to navigate using the tools provided by the site to set your own boundaries for what you want to see. AO3 asserts that unless it violates some other policy, we will not remove content for offensiveness, meaning that works of nearly all subjects are allowed and maintained on this site. In this section, I'm going to be breaking down some of the basics of AO3 fics, tagging, and statistics. This is all important context to have before we dive into the specifics of what kind of fics are created inside the Hermitcraft fandom. First, let's take a look at how we find a Hermitcraft fic. In the top right-hand side of the screen, we have a search bar. If we type Hermitcraft in here, AO3 will automatically find us anything with Hermitcraft within the fanfic description. Under the fic title and author are the fandoms listed. Underneath that, we have the following tags in order: archive warnings, ships, characters, and general tags. Underneath that, most fics will have a description. At the bottom, we have additional information about the fic, such as language, word count, chapters, collections, comments, kudos, bookmarks, and hits. Now, before we dive into what all that means, let's click into that Hermitcraft RPF tag we saw earlier. You'll notice that when we click in, the number of fics goes down and the tag has now transformed into Hermitcraft SMP. This is because AO3 recognizes adjacent tags as having the same meaning and groups them all together. The page for the tag Hermitcraft SMP also shows some interesting child tags, which are tags that are commonly associated with this fandom. This page will list the first 300 tags of characters, relationships, and additional tags in alphabetical order. This page feels like one of those Facebook memes where it's like, zoom in and the first word you see is what kills you. Now let's break down some symbols and common sorting tags AO3 uses. Some of this information is pulled verbatim from the AO3 FAQ page, which will be linked in the sources document. Content ratings are a way to measure the intensity of a work's content and give users an idea of the work's suitability for them. The ratings and their definitions are as follows. Not rated. This is the default option. For searching, screening, and other AO3 functions, this may get treated the same way as mature and explicit rated content. General audiences. This content is unlikely to be disturbing to anyone and is suitable for all ages. Teen and up audiences. The content may be inappropriate for audiences under 13. Mature. The content contains adult themes that aren't as graphic as explicit rated content. Explicit. The content contains explicit adult themes such as sexual themes, graphic violence, etc. When accessing a not rated, mature, or explicit work, a warning will show that the work may contain adult content. This warning can be turned off in your preferences, but allows users who click into these works some additional warning before possibly consuming content they are not interested in. If a work isn't rated appropriately, it may be reported to the AO3 Policy and Abuse Committee. Archive warnings. AO3 requires that creators either warn for or explicitly choose not to warn for a short list of common warnings. The warnings and their definitions are as follows. Graphic depictions of violence. The content contains gory, graphic, explicitly described violence. Major character death. The content contains the death of a major character. Whether or not a character counts as a major character is up to the creator's discretion. Rape/non-con. The content contains non-consensual sexual activity. Underage sex. The content contains graphic descriptions or depictions of sexual activity by characters under the age of 18. Note that many of the policies on AO3 are specific to the United States. In the US, the legal age of consent across the country is 18, while in some other parts of the world, that age may be lower. A creator can also select creator chose not to use archive warnings if warnings may apply but they don't want to use them, for example to avoid spoilers, or no archive warnings apply if none of the warnings apply to their content. Again, if a work isn't tagged with appropriate warnings, it may once again be reported to the Policy and Abuse Committee. Category tags indicate what kind of romantic and/or sexual relationships are depicted in the work. The available categories are F/F for female/female relationships, F/M for female/male relationships, general, no romantic or sexual relationships or relationships aren't the main focus of the work, M/M, male/male relationships, multi, more than one kind of relationship or a relationship with multiple partners, and other, relationships not covered by other categories. Now, we discussed earlier the SMP tag, and to be more specific, it is a fandom tag. Fandom tags specify the source material for the work in question. Works and bookmarks tagged with a fandom will appear in the listings for the fandom's canonical tag. Multiple fandom tags separated by commas may be added to that same work as long as the fandoms are represented in the work. These works will appear in the fandom's tags listing and will generally be filterable as crossovers. To the right of fandom tags, title, and author, we have the date. The date posted here will be the date the fanfic was last updated. This means either the publishing date or the date a chapter was last published. Relationship tags specify which characters are involved in a romantic or platonic relationship in the work. Canonical relationship tags are generally listed using the full names of the characters involved. For example, Charles Grian / Ryan Goodtimes with Scar, or Charles Grian and Ryan Goodtimes with Scar. Different relationship tags may be separated by commas and can involve more than two characters, but a single relationship tag can't be both romantic and platonic. So you can't have Grian/Scar and Mumbo. It would have to be Grian/Scar/Mumbo, or Grian and Scar and Mumbo, or a Grian/Scar tag and a separate Grian and Scar, Grian and Mumbo, Mumbo and Scar. You can see how quickly the number of tags can increase in a work. Character tags specify one or more characters who appear in the work. Full names, personal name, and family name are preferred to avoid ambiguity. Characters with only one known name will often be canonized with the fandom in parentheses for the same reason. For example, Evil Azuma Hermitcraft, Cupfan135 Video Blogging RPF, or Maui, Grian's Cat, Video Blogging RPF. Canonical character tags are created following specific guidelines by a team of volunteers known as tag wranglers. These volunteers organize tags behind the scenes according to a very strict list of guidelines. The most important part of canonical tags is that the character tag gets assigned to fandom tags and makes them canonical, so that when you post works for that fandom, characters belonging to it appear first in autocomplete. So if I make a Hermitcraft fic, I can start typing G and it will show me the option of Grian. Wrangling guidelines are the reason that many Hermitcraft character tags will show the full name or the first name of the hermits in question. Under wrangling guidelines, there's a section for alter egos and secret identities, pen names, and pseudonyms. This refers to characters, actors, and performers who have a public and private identity, as well as cases of a character acting out of character for whatever reason, where the character is still fundamentally the same character. When creating these, the tag wranglers will choose one name and make it canonical. This name should be one of three options: easily recognizable as referring to all identities, or the most commonly used name in the source material, or the name with the greatest recognition in popular culture. An example for Hermitcraft would be the canonical tag for Gemini Tay, Video Blogging RPF. Tags such as Gem, Gemini Tay, or Gemini Tay Mentioned are listed as synonyms of Gemini Tay, Video Blogging RPF. Works and bookmarks tagged with Gemini Tay will show up in Gemini Tay video blogging RPF's filter. If a character's real name and alter ego / pseudonym are both about as well known / well used in the fandom, canonicals can be constructed with a vertical bar, similar to translated names. In the case of Hermitcraft, characters like Beef, Grian, Mumbo, B-Dub, ZF, and more have their first or full names listed in character tags. We will touch back on names later, but please note that while you personally might not have known the creators' names before seeing them on AO3, they were considered public enough info to be posted here and will be displayed as such throughout this video. Hi, Editor Tara here. So I was researching this video, getting clips for it, and I did find out that the Hermitcraft wiki was updated as of May 2024. And they claim that they reached out to the hermits personally and got responses about how the hermits feel about having their real face, real name, gender identity, country, state / province, and occupation listed on the wiki. I was actually a little surprised by some of this. For example, Doc is not okay with any of the listed information. I think part of that is because he has a child now, but that was not the case. Like, his full name is out there on the internet and is on AO3. Same with like Gem, she has, as long as it's from the videos. Good Times of Scar is not okay with his name, but I feel like he's referred to his name before, so that's confusing to me as well. This doesn't cite any sources, like they're not providing screenshots, not that I think they have to, but I think it is a little hard to take this at face value. But it is something to keep in mind, and I do want to be respectful of it. So I'm going to give it a mention here, but AO3 does not change its tags very organically. So they're still listed with the names on there because they were out at the internet at one point, and the internet is forever. So they're going to live there for now. And I will continue to refer to them, not much with their real names past this part of the video. So sorry about that. I don't mean to call Grian Charles. That won't happen much more. And I didn't know he wasn't okay with that. Finally, we have additional tags, which covers any details not specified by other categories, including any warnings for content not covered by the archive warnings. Useful additional tags indicate things like genre of the work, fandom concepts contained in the work, the community the work was created for, when the work takes place in relation to the source material, or fandom-specific locations or concepts. These tags are also used to modify characters or relationship tags. For example, Azuma Void Video Blogging RPF is a canonical character tag, but for works about him as an admin, the additional tag Admin Azuma Void Video Blogging RPF exists. Additional tags aren't attached to a character or relationship tags. Additional tags are often used to give a reader a sense of the story without revealing too much. So a work that's a love story may have tags such as Slow Burn and First Kiss, while a work that's a dramatic alternate universe may have the tags Alternate Universe Spies and Car Chase. Now you have a good understanding of the first half of a fanfic in the feed. Let's very quickly discuss the other information that's included in a fanfic posting that is not the tags. As mentioned earlier, you have the title and the author listed at the top. If there is a lock next to the author's name, this means the author has restricted works for registered users only. Works that have been restricted won't show up in searches if you're not logged into your account. To become a registered user on AO3, you need an invitation. You can receive an invitation from the automated email queue or from an existing Archive of Our Own user if they have any available. Note that the individual invitation system is no longer used, but AO3 still honors any invitations users still have associated with their account. AO3 says that we're using the invitation systems so that Archive of Our Own can grow in a controlled manner. We need to add new users gradually so that our account numbers don't grow beyond what our hardware, bandwidth, and support team can cope with. This helps us ensure that everyone using AO3 gets the best experience possible. For the most comprehensive experience when doing analysis for this video, I will of course be logged in to see all possible fics. Beneath the tags discussed before, we have the fanfiction description. This is the chance for the author to sell you on the fanfic, to get you to click. An ideal fanfiction description should tell you some context or explanation of the plot. Some additional pros are when the description will have a brief snippet of some dialogue or writing. Descriptions are truly the advertisement of the fanfic world, and a good description can make or break your fic. Below the description, we have the language listed. As an English speaker, the only fics I will be examining today will be in English. However, there are fanfics from all different kinds of languages on AO3, so you're welcome to explore more at your leisure. Next up is the word count. Fanfictions posted on AO3 have no minimum and no maximum word count requirement. People can post fics with only pictures and 0 words, or they can post works longer than War and Peace. After that, we have the chapter count. As fanfiction is notoriously episodic, many fanfictions will be posted in chapters over time. In some cases, this can be as many as 300 plus chapters. If a fanfic says 1 out of 1, this is something called a one-shot. A one-shot is a completed story with all aspects of it fleshed out. If a fic is listed as a chapter count out of question mark, such as 29 out of question mark, this means the fic has 29 chapters so far and the author has not specified how many will be posted before the work is considered completed. If a work says 4 out of 4 or 20 out of 20, this means the work has been completed, just like a one-shot. Sometimes authors will know how many chapters their work will end up as, in which case you may see something like 3 out of 5, indicating that 3 out of 5 chapters have been posted so far. Next up, we have collections. A collection is a group of works and/or bookmarks compiled together under one theme. For example, it could contain all works that have been created for a challenge, all works an author posted in a particular year, or all of a reader's bookmarked recommendations for a specific relationship, character, or fandom. Collections are made by users on AO3. After collections, we have comments. Comments are a method of leaving feedback on a work. Each work or each chapter of a work has a text box at the end where you can input your remarks. The comment number counts both comments left by fanfic readers and the replies from the fanfic author to the readers. Next up is kudos. The word kudos is from ancient Greek, meaning glory or renown. One modern definition is praise given for achievement. As an archive feature, kudos are a quick and easy way to let a creator know that you like their work. Once you successfully leave kudos on a work, there will be a message that says, "Thank you for leaving kudos." You can only give kudos to a work once. You also can't leave kudos on each chapter of a work. However, you can give kudos to every work in a series as they are separate works. You will often see readers leave comments on fics they like saying something along the lines of, "Wish I could leave more kudos here." After kudos, we have bookmarks. An AO3 bookmark is a record of a work you want to remember, find more easily, or record a note about. Bookmarks created on their archive can serve as a recommendation to other users. Both bookmarks and kudos are only 1 per account, meaning they're a good way to measure how many people enjoyed or engaged with the fanfiction in a substantial way. Finally, we have hits. Hits are a counter of how many times a work has been accessed. A hit is registered every time a visitor navigates to a work's page, with the following exceptions. If 2 visits in a row come from the same IP address, only the first one is registered. Moving between chapters in a work will only register 1 hit in total, not 1 hit per chapter. If you're logged in, hits are not counted when you visit your own works. And that is all the information a reader is given when looking for a fanfic. All of these tags and some of the statistics can be specifically queried for in the AO3 search feature. For example, if I wanted to see only Hermitcraft fics without any crossovers that are complete and over 20k words, I could do that. I could also specify that they need to be posted in 2023 and have a green and mumbo pairing. We can add that we only want English fics and we want to exclude anything with explicit content. We can also sort by word count or hits, which display in descending order. With all these possibilities, you can pretty safely eliminate a lot of the content you don't want to see in the fanfiction you're searching for, assuming that the authors correctly tag their work. Something to keep in mind is that tagging is done by the fanfiction author. This means that sometimes important tags can be omitted, either on purpose or on accident. When discussing monitoring our own experiences online with the content we want to see, this is a very real problem. There are some bad apples, so to speak, out there who will purposely use no tags or identifying information to allow their content to show up in feeds of people who may not want to see that. The only option, unfortunately, for this is to report the work for not using tags and block the user. Now, if you think back to when we first looked at the Hermitcraft fandom tag, one of the ones we found was called Hermitcraft RPF. Now, what is RPF? RPF stands for Real Person Fiction. RPF fandoms work the same as any other fandom, except the characters are real people rather than fictional ones. Tag wranglers have now made the canonical tag for Hermitcraft, Hermitcraft SMP, but for quite some time the Hermitcraft RPF or video blogging RPF tag was used for Hermitcraft. There is often a debate online about whether or not it is ethical or okay to write or read fan fiction about real people. I'm not here to debate the ethics of that. That's for Tumblr, or more likely, the comments section of this video. What I want to make abundantly clear is that playing a character in a Minecraft SMP, especially Hermitcraft, is not the same as being a normal content creator or being a normal person at the grocery store. The Hermits have personas, character traits, and actions in their video that do not reflect their real-life personalities. As a viewer, we have no idea what these people are truly like in real life. We aren't seeing them vlog, we're seeing them play Minecraft. As someone who has read a good deal of Hermitcraft fanfiction, my guess is that 99% of fics written in the Hermitcraft fandom are not about the content creators, but about the characters and stories they have created within Minecraft and their videos. In this section, we're going to go over some specifics that show how these works are not about the real hermits, and are instead a multi-year conglomeration of ideas and themes commonly used in fanfiction. First off, names and naming conventions. As discussed with the character tags, many tags in the Hermitcraft community have the content creator's real name listed. Let's take Mumbo Jumbo for example. Mumbo's YouTube channel is Mumbo Jumbo. His second channel is just Mumbo. His Minecraft name is Mumbo or Mumbo Jumbo. His officially linked Instagram is Official Mumbo, but he uses his full name of Ollie Brotherhood as the name. His tag on AO3 has his full name and then his alias, Oliver Brotherhood Mumbo Jumbo. Now, if you're reading a fanfiction that takes place in Hermitcraft, you will almost never see the name Oliver in it. I think the only times I've seen it is when an author is trying to make a funny joke and they say something like, "Oh, Mumbo, if you had a dog, what would it be called?" And Mumbo goes, "I've always liked the name Ollie." Like when Marvel movies would make a reference and the crowd would go wild. There are a few exceptions to this rule, but this is because of how the content creators are named within the videos. A good example of this is Smallish Beans. While his YouTube channel is Smallish Beans, he is largely referred to as Joel. In nearly every video, people call him Joel, and thus in fanfictions, he's referred to Joel as well. In this case, we often see the creative ways people make it work in fanfiction, with Joel often having the fake last name of Beans to connect it to his YouTube channel. A couple hermits have their real names in their YouTube handles, like Joe Hills and Zombie Cleo. Others have completely made up usernames like Azuma, Zedath, or Wells Knight. Their preferred names are their IGN or some variation of it. Even with made-up names, we see an active nicknaming convention in fanfics. In most cases, nicknames are the same as we see in videos. Grian is sometimes called G in videos, he's called G in fanfiction. Sometimes an author will take creative liberties and bring in additional nicknames. The most common one I've seen is shortening Grian's name to Gree. It's personal, used in more tense or sensitive situations. Not something you would see Scar call Grian in a video where they're discussing fighting a wither, but something you might see in a fanfiction spin-off where Grian gets hurt and Scar needs to help him. An essential part of fanfiction is not straying too far from the source material. You want multiple factors from the original content to be recognizable. It's hard for a reader to jump into the work if they're completely thrown into something new. This is actually the most common barrier people experience when trying to get back into reading printed fiction books. Often the work of getting invested into characters takes too long or can be challenging. Fanfiction succeeds on this because you can skip that intro part. Assuming your audience is familiar with the source material, you can drop them right off into the plot. For example, a fanfiction could establish within a few lines that we are in Hermitcraft Season 8, specifically Bodom. We can easily establish a change from the canon material, say the moon never got big or it got too big too fast. You can very easily change things and not have to worry about setting up 100 pages of exposition. This ability to jump right in also offers the author a great opportunity to expand on the source material. Suddenly, there's a little leeway. A very common way to do this is to expand on the physical characteristics of the characters, in this case, the hermits. The hermits represent themselves in their content by their Minecraft character. If you're familiar with some of my other videos, you might have seen some of my skin analysis videos. In these, I go in depth into the history of different hermits' Minecraft skins. Over the years, these creators use different skins to represent themselves and tell a story. These skins have become so essential to the fandom that art will be created of the new skins sometimes before the content is even released. In a movie or TV show, a character can have a few set outfits with a theme that stands out. So while you might not know what they wear to sleep, you can guess that a character who always wears pink will wear something pink to bed. This same kind of theory can be applied to Hermitcraft, and it can also be completely flipped on its head. Let's show two examples real quick. Example 1 will be very true to the source material. Here they mention how Grian always wears the same red sweater. This is true of Grian's Hermitcraft character, who almost always wears the red sweater skin, with some exceptions. Example 2 goes beyond this, looking into Mumbo's head and describing how their wardrobe has multiple options. all variations of a suit, which is the outfit Mumbo wears canonically. But outfits are only one piece of the puzzle. There is so much more to a character than what they wear. Attributes that are essential to how you see a person in your head while reading are not something that's needed when making a YouTube video about Minecraft. Some examples of this are height, weight, non-human characteristics, teeth, hands, etc. All of these can be highlighted in different ways to accentuate your reading experience. In fanfiction, Mumbo Jumbo is often described as quite tall. This is the same as the real Mumbo Jumbo, who is a giant. On the other hand, we have hermits like B-dubs who are described as very short. This is a common in-joke in the B-dubs fandom and with his friends. While both of these descriptions can somewhat describe the characters, they also somewhat describe the real hermits themselves. It also goes to add another descriptor to the hermit as a character in the story. So the fanfiction can say something like, "the shorter man said," to describe B-dubs saying something. On the other hand, we have hermits who are described completely differently than they are in real life. This can be anything from their height to their race to their hair color. Some examples of this is Grian, who is often described as very short. And I'm not just saying an average short or male. I'm talking bird short, under 4 feet tall short. The tag Avian Grian is one of the top 10 tags for all fanfiction in the Hermitcraft fandom of all time, which we will touch back on later in the video. We get other characters like Azuma Void, who is described as having a mask for non-human reasons, for not being able to breathe air. There's lots of different examples for this. I just need to describe to you how pervasive the concept of non-humification of hermits is. Other characters also get this hybrid treatment, or in some cases, creature treatment. For example, Doc is often described as a goat hybrid or a creeper hybrid, which obviously has stemmed from his Minecraft skins. Other common ones are Blaze hybrid Tango and Sheep hybrid Zed. We also get Zombie Cleo, Angel Skiz, and more. None of these descriptions are what the real hermits look like. I hate to be the one to give you the news, but Tango Tech does not breathe fire and Zed does not have sheep horns. This creaturification is often called hybrids or having hybrid traits. The origin of the term could be a video all of itself, but for years now, the larger Minecraft fandom has played with the idea of human players having traits of the Minecraft mobs or other animals. I first heard about hybrids as a Dream SMP fanfiction reader. This fandom got very large, and some of the most portrayed characters got this hybrid treatment. Technoblade was often depicted as part pig or piglin. Both Tommy, Quackity, and Filza were often some kind of birds. This additional element of fantasy also gives an even further distance from the actual content creators themselves. It's much easier to imagine a made-up fantasy version of Grian or Tommy in it when you give them wings. You're able to imagine a completely original character, which makes it so you don't remember quite so much that you're reading fanfiction based on a man who sits at a computer and plays Minecraft. We will circle back to hybrid traits and how prevalent they are later in the video. This topic is extremely large, and part of that is because of the fan art section of the community. Hermits are varying levels of active in their community, and by this point, most of them have seen many a fan art piece with different fantasy or hybrid elements. I am aware that some hermits have spoken about how they're uncomfortable or confused regarding being portrayed in certain fantastical elements. To be completely honest, that could also be its own video, and I think I will address this later in a video, so let me know in the comments down below if you'd be interested in seeing that. Now, giving a character wings isn't the only fantasy element we see in fanfiction. In fact, some of these elements come directly from the game itself. Things like potions, multiple dimensions, servers, bases, swords, axes, the void, respawn, and even wings in the form of elytra are considered canon and commonplace in Minecraft and Hermitcraft as a whole. These fantastical elements can bring in a deeper level of world building and writing. It's interesting both as a reader and writer to play with some of these concepts. In Minecraft, characters can respawn infinitely if it's not a hardcore world, which Hermitcraft worlds are not. But what if respawn went wrong? What if some respawns aren't the same as others? What if a death loop goes wrong? There's so many options to play with, and expanding on these questions in your fanfiction world allows for more ideas and more stories to be told. In real life, the hermits play on the server Hermitcraft, but when they're done playing, they log out and they turn off their computers. But in a fanfiction, there's no logging out. This is their whole life. If that's the case, what's a server? Is it a world you live in either permanently or short-term? Are single-player worlds where you return to? Is there a concept of a server hub, a la Wreck-It Ralph? What happens if a server is corrupted and perhaps the moon is big? What happens if something happens on your home server? What if you have extended family there? Where do you build your bedroom? None of these questions need to or even can be answered in a Hermitcraft episode because they're taking one simple aspect of the canon, in this case a server, and expanding on it in a creative and original way to take these characters from someone playing Minecraft to someone living an entire world and life. And that life can be complex. Fanfiction allows for writers to expand on character aspects they find interesting. One line in a Hermitcraft episode could spawn 50 different fanfictions, all having different ideas. Concepts are brought up and sometimes abandoned in Hermitcraft episodes, but fanfiction allows for creatives to expand and finish on those stories. It also allows for them to process things going on in their own life, or to examine how a character they love would react or deal with a problem. Now, this is one of those times people might send up a red flag and be like, hey, wait, you can't give your trauma to a real person and speculate how they feel about it. And to that I say, let's think about what I just explained about fantasy elements. Do we really think that having the character of Grian expand on how he feels about a major problem is a projection when Grian can respawn 20 times in the fic and has wings? Again, we aren't talking about the creators here. We're talking about the characters they created. I think this idea of the characters being created by the content creators is why the real hermits might have some issues with fanfiction and fan portrayals of their characters. When I was explaining this video to a friend of mine who has no idea what Hermitcraft is, her comparison of the characters was to D&D. D&D, also known as Dungeons & Dragons, is very popular. To simplify things, a group of friends get together and play a role-playing game. When I played in college, we did some simple fights, and I mostly tried to steal everything possible in any room my DM put us in. A core principle of the game is to create a character with a backstory, skills, and abilities. You personify this character, you become it for a few hours while pretending to fight a big bad villain. Some D&D campaigns have become critically acclaimed, with groups like Critical Role and Dimension 20 reaching a level of spotlight my parents never would have dreamed of when they played it as teenagers. I think my friend might be right, and the characters created for Hermitcraft are a little bit the creators and a little bit a custom creation made by the hermits themselves, just like a D&D character. It makes sense then why it might feel weird to see something you created be put in situations you would never put your character in, or to have them say or do things that don't align with either your beliefs or your character's beliefs. If we think back to what Azuma said about not liking how his character is depicted often, a lot of that might be because of this personification of the character he has created. Now, I might be extrapolating here, so if you're a hermit or perhaps someone in a similar sphere, please enlighten me in the comments down below. But it's an interesting comparison and something to consider as we move into the analysis of these fanfictions. I promise that we will get into the stats very soon, but before I do, I want to give a quick precursor about the Hermitcraft timeline and how adjacent fandoms play into the popularity and rise of Hermitcraft fanfiction. It is impossible to talk about Minecraft without talking about the elephant in the room, by which I mean the COVID-19 pandemic that struck the world in 2020. Suddenly, people were in their houses with a whole lot more free time than they had before. During this time, many turned to Minecraft, either to play or to watch. Hermitcraft 7 was happening during this time, and the amount of videos, streams, and content that came out of the pandemic was greatly increased compared to pre-pandemic. In an adjacent fandom, the Dream SMP was born in April of 2020, which brought a new era of younger fans to the world of Minecraft and the content that was surrounding it. As the pandemic continued, so did the rise of Minecraft content. In April of 2021, we saw the first life series started by Grian. This series consisted of hermits and friends of Grian's and was a Hunger Games-esque battle to the death. It was also wildly successful. 2021 saw the second season of the series and Last Life, with 2022 having the third season Double Life. The seasons have continued with at least one happening a year, now at a total of 6 canon seasons and 1 spin-off April Fool's season. Many of the members who were not hermits also participated in another SMP called Empire's SMP, which was a roleplay-based series. Season 1 of Empire started in 2021, with Season 2 starting in 2022. During Season 2, there was a cross-dimensional server swap with Empires and Hermitcraft Season 9, resulting in Hermits going to Empires and then Empires members coming to Hermitcraft. It was awesome, and if you joined the fandom afterwards, you have my deepest condolences for missing such an exciting time in Hermitcraft history. Of course, there are new SMPs popping up with varying levels of popularity every day, But for the most part, these are the fandoms that you will see the biggest crossover and implications from in the Hermitcraft fanon and canon. The Life series in particular is a big one, with the inclusion of it often being a pivotal story element. These fandoms also stand on their own, with many individual fics being written about them, so if you're interested in seeing another analysis video of any of those fandoms or any I didn't mention, please let me know in the comments down below. Now let's get into the stats. All of the stats I will be showing you are taken from the AO3 website on January 1st, 2025. This date was not arbitrary, but instead picked in a need to get this video done. I started this during the end of season 9 and spent a lot of time muddling with when to do my date ranges and what's the best time to end things, but ultimately, all the confusion led to a big lull in the project. Even though Hermitcraft Season 10 is still ongoing, the data for 9 full seasons are here, as well as the all-time data. I pulled all of this data by hand from the Hermitcraft SMP tag on AO3. I did specify specifically English language fanfiction, so this data does not include fanfiction in non-English languages. Since this was done by hand, there is possible mistakes, so please give me some grace on those. It's also possible that if you try to fact check my numbers, some fanfictions may have been removed or updated since taking my numbers on January 1st, resulting in them looking different. You're just going to have to take my word on this and trust that this is an accurate snapshot in time of Hermitcraft fanfiction and not necessarily a thesis-worthy data analysis. Part of the reason for this is AO3 does not have an API that allows for easy data scraping of its fanfiction or data. I did find a Tumblr user who made Python code to visualize data from AO3, but I don't know Python and was not in the space to learn it for this video. If you do know Python and want to play around with this, please send me anything you make in my Discord because I would be super excited to see it. The Tumblr and GitHub information will be linked in my sources down below. AO3 did release a large data dump of all fanfiction once in 2021, but considering it's now 2025, I did not personally investigate this data for the video. YouTuber Very Much Tom did, however, look into this data and shared some very interesting insights in the video Building a Graph of AO3 Relationships, which I highly recommend you check out and will be linked in the sources as well. Tom looked at all the data that was released, which included every single fandom ever. Interestingly, Dream SMP and Minecraft YouTube made a sizable impact for its relatively young lifespan when the data was released. We could see some Hermitcraft tags and the connection they have to the Dream SMP and surprisingly Among Us. Like I said, very 2021. Since we're examining a specific fandom, there's things about the series that will come into play in our analysis. Hermitcraft runs on a season system, with each season starting a new world, new lore, and new builds for the hermits. As seasons have gone on, hermits have taken these season changes to be an opportunity to embrace something new, whether that be building styles or goals or their personas. Hermitcraft is largely not lore-based, wherein a story is not being told narratively through the gameplay. I say largely, so there are, of course, exceptions. These seasons will vary in length, but are usually 1 to 2 years long. The space in between series has also varied, with some seasons starting the day after one ends, and others having multiple month breaks. These breaks are the biggest things I had to tackle in my analysis by season. Hermits coordinate the first day new seasons drop, so the beginning of the season is easy. So video release day is easy for a start, but what about the end? Is it the last day a hermit releases a video for the season? Is it what the Hermitcraft wiki says? I decided to go with 1 day before the next season launches for my searches. I will demonstrate this to you with some stats later, but once hermits started having longer breaks between seasons, the numbers became inaccurate if I did it any other way. In my mind, the fandom is still in the season that just ended until the next season releases, so all that break time will be contributed to the previous season. I want to give a disclaimer here that some fanfictions can and will have been started during earlier season and then finished in later seasons. I acknowledge this, but AO3 will always update a fanfiction state to the last time it was updated, meaning that there isn't a way to easily go back and find only fics that were initially released during that time period. There is a stat when you open fanfiction called publish, which shows the initial date of release, but when using the search feature, you can only search by date updated or completed. I personally think this isn't too big of a deal because the searches I'm doing are relatively large at that 1 to 2 year mark. So most fics posted during that time should be included. If this all sounds confusing, it's because it is. So let's jump right into it, and I think you'll get the gist. Season 1 started April 13th, 2012, and ended on June 7th, 2013. My date range for searching on AO3 was April 13th, 2012 to June 8th, 2013, and there are no fanfictions for Season 1. Season 2 began on June 9th, 2013, and ended on October 16th, 2014. This is the same range I used for my fanfiction search, revealing exactly one fanfiction from this time period. This is, at the very least, the first fanfiction on AO3 for Hermitcraft, and possibly one of the first ever. This fanfiction, called Perimeter Tension, is actually not even set in Hermitcraft, but instead in Minecraft, another server many hermits participated in. This fic features Etho and Doc with some heavy hurt comfort. Interestingly enough, we get our first look into hybrids as well as cybernetics. Doc is described as being some sort of creeper hybrid, the author Feline Apologist saying Doc unconsciously started to hiss as he did when he felt under threat. The author also describes Doc's prosthetic arm and faceplate, which is canon to his Minecraft skin. There's also those fantasy elements I mentioned, with the nether portal travel being described as having clinging purple magic. Now, I'm not planning on covering specific fanfics in depth on this video, but for these very early fics, I feel like it's important to set a scene for how fanfiction started. The fics I will be showing here are also written by what I would now consider dead accounts, with the authors not having been active in at least a few years. This first fanfic will give us a very skewed view of the stats from this time frame, but we will take a look regardless. We have exclusively teen and up audiences for our ratings, and only no archive warnings apply for our warnings. This fic is a M/M/ as tagged by the author, resulting in a 100% M/M category for the time period. I will add that this is not a heavy slash fic in my opinion, and the author could have left this tag ambiguous if they liked, and left the relationship up to the reader's interpretation. The fandoms are Minecraft, Mindcrack, and Hermitcraft. Our only character tags are Doc and Etho, and the only relationship is also Doc/Etho. Our two tags for this time are Panic Attacks and Hurt Comfort. This fic is a one-shot, so it's complete, leaving us with a 100% completion rate. Season 3 began October 17th, 2014, and ended February 23rd, 2016. My fanfiction search range will be from that October 17th date to February 24th, 2016. This search will yield us exactly one fanfic. This fic is the first fem/fic featuring zombie Cleo and false symmetry. An interesting note here is that even with this fic being written in 2015, we have an author's note at the bottom saying Minecraft persona/characters only, no RPs here. This disclaimer by the author is very common in a post-2020 society, with the examination of the quote-unquote ethics of RPF fanfiction, as we discussed early on in this video. I think it's interesting to point out that even the second fanfiction out there has resulted in the disclaimer being specified. This fic is soft and sweet. There's not much to call out here except for the fact that Cleo is considered a full zombie, with the implications being some kind of hybrid, with the author Yog Kebab having false described Cleo's hands and saying, the long pale fingers held the feeling of ice against her skin. It was surprising, even if she really should have known to expect it. Cleo was, well, a zombie. Her resemblance to her green hostile brethren was sometimes eerie, but False said nothing about it. There's a mention of swords with enchantments, but no other large fantasy elements to call out. Like Season 2, Season 3 has one fanfiction, resulting in a very specific dataset. We have exclusively a general audiences fic, with the creator choosing not to use archive warnings. This is a fem/fic, so 100% of the fanfics in this time are F/F. We have no additional fandoms besides Hermitcraft. For our characters, we interestingly have False and Cleo's tag, but also the False Lilium tag. Now, I'm not blaming this author, but I think this may have been the start of the mistagging of False. False's AO3 tag is KD False Symmetry, but this tag of False Lilium is often incorrectly tagged instead of that. Part of this is probably because of the lack of tag wrangling in the earlier days of the Hermitcraft fandom and AO3. False Lilium appears to be from a 2014 Japanese musical, a vampire performance with the main character being named False. It looks like there was a resurgence of the musical in 2023, which is pretty cool. So if you see the False Lilium or False character tag, just know that this is where it comes from. I only bring this up because even in 2025, we still have fics tagged with False Lilium instead of the proper KD False Symmetry tag. Our top tags here are the public displays of affection and Minecraft personas. Something you'll notice with both of these old fics are that there are additional tags in the fic itself that don't show up in the tag/search feature where I pulled the top tags from. This is because those additional tags are considered to be in the additional tags category. These are not marked as common and thus cannot be filtered by. This fic is also a one-shot and completed, leaving Season 3 with a 100% completion rate as well. Season 4 started February 25th, 2016 and lasted until April 8th, 2017. My fanfiction search goes from February 25th until April 12th, 2017 and has 0 fanfics found for this time. Season 5 begins April 13th, 2017 and lasts until July 14th, 2018. My fanfiction search extends that time period by 4 days, with the end date being July 18th, 2018. Season 5 has 0 fanfictions for this time period. Now, Season 6 is where things start getting interesting. Not only was Minecraft picking up popularity during this time, but we had a new and important member join this season, in the form of one red-sweatered man named Grian. Now, examining why Season 6 was so popular is a video in of itself, but the fact of the matter is that many more people were into Hermitcraft and Minecraft, and when more people are interested in something, there are higher odds that some of those people are fanfiction inclined. Season 6 begins July 19th, 2018, and as a fan of Grian at the time, but someone who didn't know about Hermitcraft, Grian's episode 1 of Season 6 was my first foray into Hermitcraft. Who knew that 6 years later I would be making content about these hermits? Not me. The season ended on February 24th, 2020, and my fanfiction search goes until February 27th of the same fateful year. This is our first fanfiction search that yields significant results. I'm gonna switch up our order here a little bit, but don't freak out. We have a total of 467 fics for this time, with the caveat I discussed before that more were probably started during this time and finished in later seasons. Out of the 467, 393 are complete and 74 are uncompleted, leaving us with an 84% completion rate. Our top rating is general audiences, with teen and up following behind. Not rated is our third, with mature and explicit being almost the same amount of fics and rounding out the rest. Our top warning is no archive warnings apply, with 290 fics taking that title. Creator chose not to use warnings as a runner-up, with major character death and graphic depictions of violence being tied for 4th. I'm not going to touch much on these other 2 tags that are a very divisive subject and many would consider offensive content, but our essay and underage tags take the bottom 2 spots with only 10 fics for the whole season, leaving us with only 2% of fics having these warnings when combined. Our categories are topped off with the Gen tag, with 63% of fics included in the tag. M/M is our second highest category, with multi, straight pairings, other, and F/F being relatively few fics. F/F is on the bottom, which is a little surprising considering one of the earliest fanfictions in the fandom and the first true fic set in Hermitcraft was a fem/fic. Our top fandoms are obviously Hermitcraft SMP, as that is the tag we're examining. The other major fandom tag included is the Minecraft fandom, which is to be expected with a fandom that takes place in one game. Our other fandom tags are much sparser, with only being 1 or 2 fics about them. The ones that stand out to me are Evolution and Yandere High School, both being SMPs Grian participated in before Hermitcraft. Minecraft also makes the top 10 list here. Now let's move on to our characters. First, we're going to look at our top 10 list. Our number 1 is Grian, who is in 258 fics, or 55% of total fics in this season. Other hermits included in over 100 fics are Mumbo, Azuma, Iskal, Doc, Scar, and Rendog. Cub, Joe, and Tango round out the rest of the top 10. But where did the rest of the hermits fall, my worried viewer asks? Don't worry, I went ahead and got this info for you. I'm obviously not including any hermits who join in seasons after this one, like Pearl or Skiz, and I am including hermits who are no longer in current seasons, like Biffa. Here is the list of where hermits fall. We will do this for each season going forward and the entirety of Hermitcraft. The biggest thing to note here is XP crafted at 0 fics. I think a big part of this was that it was the early days of fanfiction still, and XP only streamed this season. He didn't make any videos. Etho, Hypno, and Beef were whitelisted on this season but did not join, so the fact that they had any fics at all is surprising. Relationships during this time have very low numbers. Our top ship is Mumbo and Grian with only 32 fics. A surprising 6%. I think this really shows how non-ship-based this season treated its fanfiction, with the focus being largely non-romantic relationships and friendships. The rest of these ships I would generally consider rare pairs with how few fics they show up in. The platonic tag with Momo and Grian does stand out to me as quite low. I have a feeling a lot more fanfics have this pairing without being tagged. Additional tags have Angst and Her Comfort, which sounds about right for fanfiction. Other tags that are interesting in this list are the Hermitcraft 6 tag, which makes sense, and the Minecraft persona tag, which fits with what I've been saying about the characters not being the same as the hermits themselves in real life. This period of time brought us a very popular fic called And the Universe Shifts. The author AO3 is seemingly inactive, with nothing being posted or bookmarked since 2021, so I would consider this a mostly dead account and an important enough fic to be covered. The fic is widely acclaimed and is approaching 200,000 views. This fic is an Evolution SMP AU, also known as an Evo AU. I read this quite a long time ago, but from memory and my quick skimming of this fic, it very much is in the fantasy element realm I described earlier, taking a lot of inspiration from the fictional group The Watchers that began in Evo. I truly believe that this fic is a large reason for the prevalence of the Watchers in Hermitcraft fanfiction. We will continue to see this pop up throughout the seasons. For a lot of people, this is a fic that is highly recommended and can be their first foray into Hermitcraft fanfiction. It's also featured in Ezrin's 2024 video about Watcher lore, which is an excellent dive and will be linked in the sources down below. This video also brings up that the Watcher lore is a big reason for Grian being depicted with wings, along with his pesky bird gimmick from Season 6. Just something to consider as we keep moving through the seasons. Season 7 begins on February 28th, 2020 and lasts through the pandemic, ending on June 12th, 2021. My search for fanfiction will extend 6 days to June 18th, 2021. This season, we saw some of the most activity Hermitcraft has ever had. There was a major war, an election, and major games such as Decked Out, Among Us, and the Head Games. This season brings us a total of 2,778 fics, with 2,322 fics being completed and 456 being uncompleted, with a total percentage of 83% completion. Our top rating is general audiences, with teen and up following closely behind. Our top warning is no archive warnings, with the creator chose not to use archive warnings as a runner-up. Our categories are almost tied with first, with Gen being number 1 and M/M being very close in numbers. Our top fandoms are, of course, Hermitcraft and Minecraft as a runner-up. This time period brought us a lot of notorious fics and also some of the first crossovers with the Dream SMP fandom, which results in Dream SMP being the third top fandom for Season 7. Our other notable top fandoms are the beginning of the Third Life fandom, with a low 32 fics for this time. But just you wait, we will be seeing more of this. Among Us also makes the top 10 list, which I personally find very cute. Our top character tags are looking pretty similar to Season 6, with Grian taking the top spot again. We have some new faces in the top 10, with B-Dubs, Impulse, and ZF being new additions. Our additional hermits have a mix of some moving up and some moving down. I thought the best way to show this movement of the different hermits would be to directly compare them to the previous season, now that we have 2 seasons with consistent data. The way I handled this was comparing side by side the number of fics per hermit and where that put them in the list, from highest number of fics to lowest. So in both Season 6 and Season 7, Grian is the top character tag, meaning he has moved 0 spaces. Azuma was the third character tag in Season 6 and is now the second in Season 7, meaning he moved 1 space up. Meanwhile, Mumbo was second in Season 6 and third in Season 7, meaning he moved -1, or 1 space down. This way of looking at the data isn't, of course, the end-all be-all of how popular these characters were during these seasons, but it gives us a good look at the movement in the fandom. When looking at this chart, Etho has made a massive advance, moving up to 11th most popular character and advancing 12 spots in the ranking. Our top relationship tag is no romantic relationships, with Grian and Mumbo falling closely behind. The rest of the listed ships are below 90 fics for each pairing, so less than 3% of total fics at best. I would consider these all rare pairs for their numbers, although a pair on this list won't be rare for long. Let's put a pin in that little desert duo of ours. Our top additional tag has a few things of note. We, of course, have the Minecraft personas, but we're also seeing a high prevalence of fics with both fluff and angst, and both at the same time. We also have our first redacted tag here. While I don't think I could put these words on YouTube, let's just say it's what happens when 2 men love each other very much. Again, even though this made the top 10, it's still only 4% of fics and not a true representation of all the fics of this time period. Season 7 has a surprising amount of top fics being Hermitcraft and Dream SMP crossovers, which is actually how I got into Hermitcraft fanfiction. The combo of Tommy in its angsty exile phase and Hermitcraft's seemingly happier series in comparison led to a lot of fics where Tommy recovers from his harrowing time with the Dream SMP in the comfort of an endless respawn utopia on Hermitcraft. In these fics, we often see the mentor/protege dynamic with Grian and Tommy respectfully, which boosted this crossover idea even further into the fandom's cultural zeitgeist. Season 8 is the oddest season of Hermitcraft. It's the shortest season and has arguably the most lore, with the main through-line story being about the moon getting bigger and gradually destroying the server. Some hermits took this roleplay storyline very seriously, while others did their own thing as the moon towered over them. Season 8 of Hermitcraft started on June 19, 2021, and ended only 6 months later on December 22, 2021. This season is the whole reason my fanfiction searching is until the day before the next season starts. First, let's look at fanfiction only in the date range Season 8 was live. We have a total of 1,825 fics, with 82% being completed. Not bad numbers for 6 months. Our ratings are similar to previous seasons, and so are our warnings. Our categories also fall into what we've been seeing in previous seasons. Fandoms is again as expected, with Third Life moving up in the ranking. Our characters is where things get interesting. Our top 10 has neither of the new hermits that joined this season, Gemini Tay and Pearlescent Moon. Instead, they're in this list of additional hermits and not very high up on the list. Neither of these characters are featured in our top 10 relationships either. Our additional tags have 2 interesting new tags, which we'll circle back to in a minute. When I was first examining the fanfiction, I thought nothing of these stats. Seemed about right for a short season, I thought. It wasn't until I started looking at Season 9 that I realized the gap in between seasons was so large, if unaccounted for, it left a significant amount of fics not examined. Season 9 did not begin until March 5th, 2022, which left 3 prime months for writers to examine the world-ending catastrophe that was the finale of Season 8. With a new fanfiction range that spans until March 4th, 2022, we now have a dataset of 2,785 fics, nearly 1,000 more fics in just 3 months of time. 2,301 of these fics are completed with an 82% completion rate. Our ratings are similar to previous seasons, with general audiences and teen audiences being at the top. Our warnings are also similar, with no archive warnings. A creator chose not to use archive warnings in the lead. Our top categories have Gen and Male Slash in the top, with Fem Slash being the lowest with only 67 fics. Our top fandom tags have, of course, Hermitcraft at the top, with Third Life and Dream SMP being top fandom contenders. We also have the Empire's SMP making its appearance on this list. Now on top 10 character side, we have Pearl making her way into spot number 10. This was one of the things that surprised me. It really appears that the gap in between seasons allowed Pearl to make her way into more fanfictions, while Gem stayed largely in the same place in the rankings. When comparing these ranks from Season 7 to Season 8, we see a lot of hermits moving down, with the largest fall being Iskal and Cubfan. I'm not including Pearl and Gem in the movement graph since they are new additions, but next season we will get to see their progress. Our top relationships for Season 8 are once again dominated by the no romantic relationship tags, with Platonic, Grian, and Mummo and the Grian and Scar being second and third respectively. Grian and Scar is our top ship, with Grian and Mumbo being right behind. We also have a new ship edition of B-Dubs and Etho, as well as the platonic pairing of Grian and Tommy in it. Our top tags bring the dominating themes of this season with angst and hurt comfort, but we also have 2 rising tags that really demonstrate how the themes of Hermitcraft fanfiction are defining themselves. Winged Grian and Watcher Grian being so high up show that these ideas are not just niche ones, but instead becoming an almost canon fact in many fanfictions, showing up in nearly 10% of them. Season 8 was so unique, and I truly think that the Hermits incorporating lore into their own canon brought a lot of creativity to the fans in the form of things like fan art, animations, and with fanfiction. After a semi-long break, Hermitcraft Season 9 started on March 5th, 2022, and lasted until December 20th, 2023. The break between Season 9 and Season 10 wasn't as long as the Season 8 to Season 9 break, but was still sizable. My fanfiction search will go until February 2nd of 2024, the day before Season 10 begins. Season 9 has a record amount of fics so far at 13,022 fics. 10,442 of these fics are completed, with an 80% completion rate. Our top ratings are the same as previous seasons, with general and teen nearly tying. The same goes for archive warnings, a large majority falling into no warnings or not using warnings. Our categories have also remained similar, with Gen and Male Slash being at the top. For fandoms, we are seeing a significant rise from the Third Life fandom, now falling into second spot and being included in nearly 20% of the fics for this season. No new hermits were added this season, and our top characters are consistent with Grian being at the top again. Pearl has also made an increase from her place in 10th. In our additional hermits, we have Gem and Cub rising in their ranks. Here you could see the differences in placement between Season 8 to 9. This is also the second season in a row with Iskall losing high placement. Our top relationship tags bring a new era to Hermitcraft fanfiction, the true era of shipping. No longer is the no romantic relationship tag the top tag. We have now entered the dawn of /fic with Grian and Scar, with 14% of fics from this season, including this ship. The platonic tags we know and love bring out second and third place, with Momo and Grian / being the 5th most popular tag. Now, if you remember my whole spiel about adjacent fandoms, welcome to the payoff. One of our top relationship tags in Season 9 includes a person who is not even in Hermitcraft. Welcome Jimmy Solidarity Gaming, who is shipped with Tango Tech and makes it into the top ships of the season. This ship is largely inspired by the Life series game Double Life, where the two were paired together as soulmates. This season also had Grian and Scar paired together, even though they had been allies in previous seasons. A sort of poetic irony there. Double Life's gimmick seemingly opened the fandom for shipping. Seeing the creators themselves couple off was the gateway to writing those characters in a real relationship. The Jimmy Tango ship expedited its way to the top when Season 9 introduced the Empires crossover, wherein Hermits spent time in the Empire's world and Empire's members came to Hermitcraft. This crossover event led to the two reuniting in canon, which is a whole bag of worms a fanfiction writer would be right on. Our other top tags for this season are also /, with B-dubs and Etho being once again in top 10 and a new addition coming into the mix with a multi-pairing of Mumbo, Scar, and Grian all being shipped together. This actually isn't our first multi-pairing to make it to the top 10 list, with both Season 6 and Season 7 having the Zit team of Zedaf, Impulse, and Tango shipped together make the top 10. Our top 10 additional tags look similar to Season 8, with a new addition of Avian Grian, another variation of the Wing hybrid tag. Season 10 begins February 3rd, 2024, and is still ongoing as of mid-January 2025. This section of the video I would consider to be the most incomplete stats, since the season is not over and Season 11 has not begun. Due to this, I made my cutoff date for this season as December 31st, 2024, giving this season almost a full year of fanfictions to examine. So far, we have 8,880 fanfics, 74% of these being completed. One of our lowest completion rates so far, but makes sense with the season still ongoing. Our ratings and warnings follow previous seasons as well as our categories. Our top fandoms have Third Life in second place, once again, being featured in 29% of fics for this season. Our top characters is also very similar to previous seasons, with one of our new hermits, Joel Smallish Beans, actually making it into top 10 already. Gem and Pearl have also both made it very high on this listing. Our other new hermit, Skizzleman, is featured in the top half of additional characters. Season 10 does not have Tinfoil Chef featured, as he sadly passed away during Season 9. I have also decided to include Iskall and Stress since they were here for the majority of the time frame I covered. I don't really consider this movement graph to be a good depiction yet with the season still ongoing, but we do get to see how many of the veteran hermits have been shifted down to make room for exploring those new characters. Grian and Scar are once again at our top spot, with the no romantic relationship tag being knocked all the way down to 10th. We also have our first top fem/pair, with Gem and Pearl being 4th. We also get another non-hermit on this list, with our favorite married couple of Joel and Lizzie getting together on the top 10 as a /fic. Joel is also shipped with Etho here, another remnant from the Double Life series that has been exponentialized by Joel joining Hermitcraft. Our top 10 tags are also similar to Season 9, with the 10th tag being a sad little Grian needs a hug tag. And that is all of our canon Hermitcraft seasons. As time has gone on, there are some stark contrasts from season to season. While earlier fanfiction seasons were very strict on the no shipping and writing purely gen fanfiction, as time has gone on, and especially in a post-Double Life world, the amount of fics including shipping has increased. Throughout the seasons, we've seen a combination of angst and fluff fics, a common dynamic of putting your character through something awful, and then giving them all the tools and friendships they need to handle it. Now, with our close examination of each season, let's look at the bigger picture. What does all fanfiction of all time look like for the Hermitcraft SMP tag? Now, when I say all time, let's clarify I mean until December 31st, 2024. Again, I just needed a solid date to pick and gather this data on so that all of it's consistent. With that being said, let's jump into all fanfiction from as far back as AO3 goes until the very end of 2024. We're coming in with 27,934 fanfictions, 79% of those being complete. The top archive ratings are general audience, followed by teen and up audience. For archive warnings, over 50% of fics have no archive warnings apply warning, with a sizable chunk using creator chose not to use archive warnings as well. Hope you all are excited for our new graph, because let's take a look at word count. Now, AO3 allows you to filter by word count, allowing me to pull this data. If you've ever taken a stats class, you can probably look at the numbers on the left and sense that my numbers feel wrong, and you'd be right. But this isn't a stats class, and I can do what I want. I chose the word count amount by my own fanfiction reading vibes. To me, these felt like the kind of distinctions you see in size of fanfics and how you might search for them, i.e. only looking over 10k or over 50k. The numbers here are quite interesting, with an overwhelming majority of fanfics being in the 1,000 to 5,000 range. The number of fanfics over 100k words is relatively small, making up less than 1% of fanfics. So if you're a fanfic author watching this, let me know where on this graph your fanfics largely fall. Our top categories are as expected based off our season work, with gen pairing being the top and male slash being number 2. Multi and straight pairings are 3rd and 4th, with other and fem slash closing out the rear. Our top fandom tags are consistent as well, with Phasmophobia and the Quackity SMP taking up the 2 lowest spots. Third Life is the most popular crossover, with 19% of fics having the fandom included. For the top 10 characters of all time, we of course have Grian at the top, as he has been since Season 6. With over 14k fics having Grian's tag, that means 53% of all fics include Grian. A pretty high percentage for just one hermit. We also have Pearl making the top 10 list of all time, which is impressive for only joining in Season 8. Likewise, Gem is at the top of additional hermits listed. We can also say that all hermits have at least 500 fics per hermit. I wanted to look at the tag movement per hermit as well, which has resulted in this thing. Now, it's not the prettiest, but I think it's sort of readable. This is the combo of all movement tags put together, from Season 6 to Season 7, Season 7 to Season 8, etc., etc. There's no particular order, I just took the Season 6 list and then added Season 8 hermits at the bottom. I couldn't include Joel or Skiz because we don't have any season-to-season movement for them yet. If a character's numbers are all very close to 0, that means their placement did not drastically change. If a character's numbers sway more negative, it means that the amount of fics including them placed them lower in the list than in the previous season. We have a few hermits on this list who consistently fell in placement with each season that went on. On the other hand, positive numbers mean that the hermits kept increasing in popularity from season to season. Etho, Scar, Pearl, and Gem have the most consistent positive spike, with Iskal, Joe, and Cub having the lower end of consistency. Again, this isn't saying that any hermit isn't liked or appreciated as much, just that their ranking in terms of tagging is going lower and lower. We have some new graphs for character tags here as well. Instead of just looking at hermits, we're going to expand our gaze. First, let's take a look at former hermits. With Iskal and Stress being the most recently departed hermits, they are dominating a lot of this graph. We also have a high number of TFC, as well as Biffa and Python. Honestly, most of these other members on the list don't surprise me with their numbers. What does surprise me is that I've read more than one fic with pungence in it. That feels like a statistical anomaly based off these numbers. I also grabbed the numbers for some personas / original character tags. The tag Hermitcraft Ensemble is the highest here, which I think accounts for some of the quieter hermits not being tagged as much. Instead, authors would just put them as Hermitcraft Ensemble if they're only mentioned in passing. The alter egos of Evil Azuma and Hell's Knight have a good amount of fics, as well as the original characters of all genders. Hot Guy and Cute Guy make their way on here, as well as the possible alter egos of Grian in the form of Ariana Grande and Poultry Man. Now, do not take this next graph as a list of the top non-hermit tags, because AO3 is not really built for finding that kind of data. Instead, this is a group of popular non-hermit tags that I grabbed the numbers for, at my discretion. Our top non-hermit in this list is Jimmy, with over 3,000 fics including him. We also have other Life series members getting good numbers, such as Martin, Lizzie, and Big B. Members of the Dream SMP are in a small amount of fics for how many high hit count fics feature them, and some members from Green's past, like TARDIS and Sam England, also make this list as common enough side characters. The Empire's crew could have gotten their own graph, but all you need to know is that the group is often included. Moving right into our relationship tags, Green and Scar is coming out as our top / pairing. Interestingly, this pairing has become so popular, it has actually made it to 2024's top 100 relationship tags, coming in at number 72 and moving up 20 places from 2023. Thank you to AO3 user Sender of These Lights, who has been consistently posting these years in review and ship stats information. Our other top ship is Grian and Mumbo, as well as B-Dubs and Etho, both classics of the fandom. We not only have the Jimmy Tango ship, which we discussed earlier, but also Jimmy and Scott, which I found a little surprising since this didn't show up as a top ship in any other season. In the same vein as our additional characters, I grabbed some additional slash tags. These are not necessarily the top additional slash tags, just some more to examine. For all these ships listed, they're included in less than 1% of fics, which might even consider them rare pairs when compared with the dominance of Desert Duo and Grumbo. For our additional platonic tags, there's a good mix of all kinds of tags, with more of the personas and Third Life members making an appearance. Our top 10 tags of all time are pretty consistent with our seasons, with Fluff and Angst and Hurt Comfort coming out at top. Our hybrid tags with Grian are also dominating, and the not RPF tag is still going strong. Like our characters and relationships, I pulled an assortment of other tags to give a good sense of some numbers. Angsty tags have a good amount of fics, whereas some shipping classics like Getting Together and First Kiss are a little lower in numbers than I would have expected. Interestingly, the modern AU and superheroes AU are pretty prevailing, likely due to the superhero bit Scar's been doing as Hawkeye. I also pulled tags that specifically reference a character, with Grian Needs a Hug being a high one. The Grian and Pearl are siblings is also an interesting tag and actually has fewer tags than I would have expected, as I feel like I've personally seen this in a lot of fanfics. We also have Grian and Jimmy are siblings, which is probably because people think they both have wings and it's angsty and fun to imagine them in a sibling dynamic. Speaking of wings, I wanted to highlight my hybrid point I made earlier in the video. In addition to multiple of the top 10 tags being hybrid tags, we have many more that pertain to different hermits. And for every tag listed here, there's even more niche hybrid assignments that are living as non-categorized tags because they're still so uncommon. In this second page of hybrid tags, we have one of these new examples, with Tanuki Joel rising in its tags. Finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Smut. How much smut is there? Based on the warnings and ratings, we already got a sense that largely, Hermitcraft fanfiction does not revolve around explicit content. Less than 0.01% of fanfictions involve the inappropriate warnings combined, and barely 1% of fics have an explicit rating. Our smut tags further this, with 0.03% of fics having the redacted tag of what happens when two men love each other very much. An even lower amount of fics have the assigned female birth equivalent for our other redacted tag. The common smut tags are also relatively low, and for those of you who do not know, the Dead Dove Do Not Eat tag not only stands for potential extreme violence, but also potential extreme smut, which is why it's included here. It is also from this iconic Arrested Development scene, and Coley made an excellent video describing this in detail, which will be linked in the sources down below.
Well, I don't know what I expected.
Our other smut tags that I felt interesting to include is the Omegaverse. The Omegaverse is a concept wherein people have a secondary gender known as alpha, beta, or omega. This is a really fascinating subsection of the internet, and I recommend checking out Rowan's video about it, once again linked in the sources. The main point here is that men can be pregnant in this universe, which is where the mpreg tag comes in. Largely, I would say smut is not prevalent in the Hermitcraft fandom. Like the rules of the internet say, if something exists, there will be smut about it, but I don't think this fandom is in any way unsafe for those who do not want to engage with this type of content. As outlined earlier in the video, AO3 makes it much easier now to exclude fanfiction you're not interested in, and the Hermitcraft community is largely quite good about tagging their explicit content correctly, so you can safely assume you won't see it if you properly exclude it. And that is all of the numbers regarding fanfic. Well, we aren't done yet. Write a comment down below if any of the information surprised you. Hermitcraft is so interesting with the season's concept and the unique twists and stories each season brings, so it's easy to see how that spurs fan content. With ideas like the Watchers becoming so popular, it really gives fans an opportunity to take something in the fanon and put their spin on it. And who knows, maybe that idea will become so popular that other people will incorporate it into their fanfictions, and then others, and then it continues on until you end up in an incredibly long YouTube video critically examining the whole thing. This is the same with hybrid dynamics. Someone had to first decide, hey, what if Grian had real wings? What if this other hermit had wings? Or what if a hermit was a hybrid of some other mob? As Minecraft continues adding mobs, the opportunity for hybrids continues. It's a way to connect the fiction you're creating with the original source material. It's a way you, the viewer, can take what you're seeing and make something original. And if that something original sometimes entails shipping or mpreg, that's okay too. As the saying goes, don't like, don't read. Not every piece of fanfiction is for everyone, and that's okay. Your favorite fic might end up being something other people would never read, and vice versa. We all have our tastes and our preferences, And I think the amount of fanfic this community has made is very impressive, and I'm proud of everyone who has helped contribute to it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video and you're going, Tara, well, your fanfiction writing was clearly a work of genius in those examples, and you should write a novel. I would love to read more fanfiction that you recommend and love. Why don't you share that here in this video? What are the top fics you recommend? That's a great question to ask, how kind. But the answer is no, I'm not going to share it here in this video. Instead, I'm going to share it on the only platform I feel it's intended to be shared on, AO3. If you've had a clever eye during this video, you might have gotten a glimpse of my burner account. This is not my account that I've always used to read fanfiction on. I created it for this video to give myself a fresh slate, but it will also be linked in the sources below in this video. I will be bookmarking some works of fanfiction that I feel are Hermit appropriate, mostly, and an excellent representation of the fandom. I feel these fics are well written, they're detailed, and they're so important to me, so please viewers, behave, okay? I would like to see no bad comments on there, because if I see anything like that, I will be deleting the bookmark and disassociating myself from it, and I don't want to have to do that. I want people to be able to see these beautiful fics. I'm hoping that if you've gotten this far and you're hearing this, you already have that respect for these authors, but if that's not the case, hopefully most of those disrespectful comments will end up here on this video, and they won't go through the effort of making an AO3 account to leave hate. And if you have never read fanfiction before and want to start, this is also a great place. I will be providing a framework for you to start with, and hopefully afterwards you can hop into the Hermitcraft SMP tag and be able to sort to what you enjoyed reading, whether that be word count, or theme, or alternate universe. Fanfiction is just as credible as opening up a book. While I've been writing this script, I've been alternating reading fanfiction and reading books, such as My Husband and Moby Dick. You are not defined by your fanfiction reading, and I hope to see more people with an open mind about this subject as the years go on. With that being said, that does bring us to the end of the video. If you've gotten this far, please leave a comment telling me your thoughts. I'm guessing I might get a barrage of comments from people who didn't watch any of what I had to say and just assumed I love shipping hermits and reading smut about them. I hope you can all see the love letter that this video was to Hermitcraft Fanfiction and how deeply this fandom has touched me. I've truly seen it grow since its earliest days, and I've scrolled through hundreds of pages of fanfic and read even more than that. Thank you to the fanfic authors who put out these great works and whose tagging made this video possible. Thank you to my amazing community whose never-ending support has been so nice. I hope you all had a great start to 2025. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.